I was thinking the other day that if I was to speak to the church about what's going on, I would try to control myself. So I've been practicing. Let's see. Not too long ago, I was invited to participate on a panel at a university nearby to reflect on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "The time is right to do right." I was one of 6 panelists, I believe. One was a policeman, another was a student, another was a faculty member, another was a community activist, and another person was a staff member of a community justice agency. And then they had Reverend Davis to give the theological point of view. Well, I was given the first question, and it was, Reverend Davis, given separation of church and state, how does the theological understanding of Dr. King's message, is the time is right to do right, how does that work exactly? And of course, I didn't even deal with the separation of church and state. I went straight to justice. That is what Dr. King is talking about. We are imbued with this right, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, to move toward justice. And then, of course, the moderator moved on with different questions to everyone. And toward the end of the session, she said, "Reverend Davis, I would still like you to reflect on this idea of separation of church and state." And so I said, you know, since you are asking me really to get into this, I want to get into it. Because we forget that the people who fled Europe, they were fleeing church. They were running away church. They wanted to go to a place where there was freedom. And so they came here, and the first thing they did, they said, we will have a free exercise of our religion, where no government will interfere with what we believe and how we believe. And that understanding was reflected in our tradition, Unitarian Universalists, because we were part of that group fleeing, right? People were dying in Europe because they believed differently. So here on these shores would become a place of sanctuary. Did you hear me say that word? A place where you could be safe in what you believed and how you exercised that belief. As years have gone on, we have suddenly got into this idea that there has to be this separation between church and state, and it's kind of like two kingdoms, the two-state theory, you know? The church theological beliefs over here, and the government and beliefs over here, and we won't comment on each other. And we'll have the IRS standing there to penalize if you dare move into that arena. But church, I went to a seminary many years ago, but still it's with me, where I was taught that you cannot live in this country and idly look at the clouds and wish upon a star and not reflect your feelings of how your government is acting. And so we were taught to preach like Reinhold Niebuhr, the author of Moral Man and Immoral Society, a church ethicist, a social ethicist. Now, Reinhold Niebuhr said, when you preach, preach with the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. And so, church, I'm here this morning to give you a little bit of that. The Bible, all you Bible scholars out there who have your Bibles with you, Look at, when you got a moment, look at Proverbs 17:7. That's chapter 17, verse 7. And in Proverbs, you know, it doesn't all fit with 6 and 8, but just look at 7. And it says something like this. It says, eloquent words are not suited for fools. How much worse? Did I say eloquent words? Eloquent lips. Eloquent lips are not suited for fools. How much worse are lying lips for rulers? You can't hide your lying eyes. And your lying lips are worse. Church, when we look at our newspaper, we hear and see that all around us there is this idea of what I call fake complexity. Fake complexity. Now, fake complexity sounds like, what does that mean? It means simply you're lying. That's what fake complexity is. When you begin to tell people, oh, it's so complex. And so you hear people talking that way about, I can't really explain it. It's just a lot to it. You know, it's really complex. Look for the lie. Because that's where it is. Church, when we have a president who gets into a tither over whether the people who watched the inauguration were less or more than his, then there's something wrong going on. And then we got all kinds of understanding about, wait a minute, you know, I meant this and I meant that. And therefore, you know, when you look at all those smartphones and all those internet access, of course we had more numbers. Why is it important? Why are we into this? Why is that? Why are we all caught up in this to the point that people start talking about alternative facts? Have mercy, church. I know I'm going to be in control, I swear. I've been working on this. I've been working on this because I want to be able to give the message. I don't want you to say, he just lost it up there. I want a message to be given. I want you to hear what I'm trying to say, because the bottom line to all of this that we're dealing with here is that this is our elected government. These are the folks who are responsible to us. They are accountable to us. Therefore, we should have the last word on this. And it is important for us to not delegate that authority, that responsibility, or to move away from that. No, it is our responsibility to be educated about what is going on. Now, I'm saying all of this because we're in church today, and we're in a safe place, a sanctuary. But I want us to be wise in what we do when we go outside. This is like a filling station, as the old folks used to say. We need to get gassed up in here, right? We need to get what we need to, or in order to deal with what is going on. We have a time in our existence where people forget. They don't want to go back to the history. They don't want to get to how things came to be. Because when you start doing that, suddenly that complexity becomes very simple. You start unwinding and unpacking, and you start getting down to the root of things. And the root of things is where we need to be, church, when we try to understand what is going on around us. I want to speak a little bit here about how love enters into the whole equation. Dr. King said, you don't have deep disappointment without deep love. Dr. King reminded us, if you love tremendously, if you really want to have answers, then when you get disappointed, understand why you are disappointed. That doesn't mean that you are partisan, church. And I know before me, there are many political parties out in front of me. I'm not saying Republicans are horrible. I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying Democrats are wonderful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about we are Americans. And we have before us a constitution that tells us we must question. We must exercise our free speech. We must vociferously support a free press. That means that we want folks asking hard questions. And if you feel demoralized because all of these questions are coming at us, that's too bad. That is how it works. Hard questions because we love deeply. We love this country. It's not about being a nativist, a nationalist, love it or leave it. No, that's not it. That's not what a love is about. Love is I want it the very best. I want the very best. I want to work to make sure we uphold these values that we espouse. I want to apply it to everyone. I don't want us to get into a place where we say, I know and you don't, and you're wrong for not knowing, without giving me an idea of how I can know. It is important, church, that we exercise the free exercise of religion and belief, which is to say, if you don't agree, then you exercise your free speech. Now I want to move into this whole idea of what can I do, right? Because sometimes we get bogged down when we say, it's just so much, and we start going into that fake complexity thing, Oh, it's just too much. I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't know it's not an excuse. I don't know it's not good enough. Because you can find out. My dad used to say, son, look that up. When I'd ask those questions, look that up. I talk about my dad a lot. I rose there because he died 36 years ago on January 25th. And, my dad wasn't perfect. He was a dad. I loved him. And my dad did things that now I understand what he did and why he was doing it. Like, I told you the story about the library, and so, I went to the library all the time and checked out books in Sapulpa. And one of the books my dad told me to read was Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. And it was like, I was a kid. I was like maybe 12, It's like, why is my dad having me read this book, Mein Kampf, My Life? It was autobiography by Adolf Hitler. I don't remember what that book said. I was 12 years old, but I read it. I read all of it. It was a big book, but I read it because my dad told me to read it. Well, later in life, I thought about that, but because my dad was not a fascist, although he was a daddy, he was. So, you had to do it if he said do it, but he wasn't. I don't think he was moving down that road. Why would my father want me to read a book by Adolf Hitler? I couldn't understand it. But later in life, I began to understand he wanted me to see it. He wanted me to read it. He didn't want me to depend upon others telling me what it said. He wanted me to say it. I don't think he ever read it, but he wanted me because I asked a lot of questions growing up. So he wanted me to say, why don't you read this? And then see what you get from that. So now, I take that with me. So that's where I'm going with this, church. We have a responsibility to educate ourselves, not to depend upon what the pundits say, but to dig a little deeper, to unpack. And that means a little work. Now, there's an organization called Together Oklahoma that's part of the Oklahoma Policy Institute. And I'm going to give a little plug because I like the director of that, Kara Joy McKee. She's a friend of mine. I like her. And Kara Joy McKee sent out an email recently about minimal things you can do, moderate things you can do, and then you're all in, but she gave you choices. Now, I'm one of those folks that say, I'm going to give you the minimal to do, and then I'm going to see what you do. Because it's just like opening blinds to a window. You know, I can open the blinds, but when you look out, it's up to you to even look out. But then you might see something out there that you want to investigate a little bit further. And so you go outside the house and you go a little bit further in your investigation, and before you know it, you're planting trees, you know? So the point is I give you the minimal and then I step back and let's see what happens. So here's the minimal. Everyone in this sanctuary should have on your phone the telephone number to your state representative and state senator. Put it on your phone, right? Just that. And then know this number, area code 202-224-3121. That's the U.S. Capitol switchboard. So you can call Langford, Senator Langford. I call them the 3 gems. And I don't mean G-E-M-S. But anyway, that's partisan. No. You can call Langford. You can call Inhofe. And you can call Brightenstein. 202-224-3121, the Capitol switchboard. Just call them and they'll connect you. Everyone should have that on your phone. I'll tell you, Katie Hinkey is my state representative and Gary Stanislawski is my state senator. And they have heard from Reverend Davis many times. And I've met Katie Hinkey. So the point is that I'm not going to tell you to do something I haven't done, right? That's minimal. Just put that on there. Now I could go on a little bit further because this congregation is part of a group called Action. Allied Communities of Tulsa Inspiring Our Neighborhoods. It's an IAF institution-based community organizing a group. And we are 19 congregations and nonprofits together working on getting things better. And you can be part of that because All Souls is part of that. You can start asking about your core team. Just ask them, what's a core team? Start asking that. And somebody's going to direct you to the right people. Ms. Terrell. And you're going to find out a little bit about that. That's minimal things that you can do before you know it, you're involved. Because it's a whole lot of stuff going on out here that's not right. And we are the ones to do right. We are the ones to do right. The time is right to do right, as Dr. King said. We are the ones. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot. That's the beautiful thing. When you call your representative, the first thing they're going to ask is, where's your address? They want to know, is this your district that you're calling about? You say, yeah, you give them your address. Then they go, well, what is it? You can just say, tell my representative to vote no on whatever, or vote yes on whatever. Whatever it is, but call them. Let them know that you're there. That's important. It is huge. They log all these calls, church. They want to know from you because, see, whether you know it or not, we are the people and we have the power. Now, if you don't feel like that, try doing it. Just act like it, as my grandmother used to say. Just act like you know something, act like you do. And you'll begin to feel a little bit better. I want to move into another area right now because there's another thing you can do that's not minimal. It's a little bit more, but it's called rallies and marches. Now, some folks say, hey, I'm not the rally marcher type. I'm not going there. But a lot of things happen when you go. My wife and daughter attended the Women's March in Washington. They were right there in Washington. And Joy was telling me, my wife was saying, we never got to the stage where we could hear the speakers, but it was so much going on right around us. People were drumming and talking and signs, and it was great. We were part of something that was organic. It was moving en masse. And she said when they did march, and they marched past the Trump Hotel, they were directed to look toward the Trump Hotel and do a middle finger salute. And they did. All these women. But here's the point, church. Once you go, you'll see, wow, that was something. Now, some people will say, I didn't, nothing happened, blah, 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 but you gain the experience of being there. You gain that experience. This past Friday here in Tulsa, we had a march on behalf of immigrants, right? So we were there, and we started at Boston and Brady and marched over to City Hall, then marched back. But all the way we were chanting, no hate, no fear. Refugees are welcome here, no hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here, no hate, no fear. Muslims are welcome here. But that's powerful. You got all these people singing and moving, and that's a good thing that's feeling, right? There's one that I hear that we didn't do, but I like the thing about build the wall, we'll tear it down. Build the wall, we'll tear it down. Build the wall, we'll tear it down. I like that. But these are just chants. But what they do is that they infuse you with a spirit that says, I'm part of something bigger than who I am. And then you meet people. The other thing, that's relationship. You start building relationships. You're meeting people. You're finding out who else may be marching, who else may be rallying. So that's on down the line. That minimal is call your Congress people, call your representatives. You move outside that window, you can go outside. There's some more things you can do. But the whole thing is that you are exercising something that is guaranteed in this country, your free speech. So we have right now a person in the Oval Office who believes that he truly is a ruler, that he can do executive privilege things and make things happen just like that. Look what I did. Now, it doesn't matter that some of those executive actions that he did don't have any power. It doesn't matter that, but some do. But because we have a thing called the judiciary, we have judges saying, hold it, you can't do that. And so that's stopping some of this craziness. But that's the beauty, once more, of living in this country. We can have the checks and balances. He will soon realize that. And hopefully he will refrain from some of his actions. But if not, the people united will never be defeated. And that's what we can do. Because it starts with that First Amendment, church. When you really look at that First Amendment, it starts with, they call it the Establishment Clause, separating church and state and all like that. But it says the free exercise of religion. That means that what you believe, what's inside of you, what's inside of you, all of you, you have something huge and powerful and important to say. You believe that, and it's worth something in this country what you believe. You have the right to believe what you believe in this country. And you feel it, and so you say it. That's free speech. You have the right to say it because it's free. And free people cannot be free if they don't have free speech. And if you say free speech and you say what you believe, maybe you want other folks to understand. And so you give them that message. And that's free press, the free media. Because we have a right to exercise what we believe through speech and through the media. But we also have the right to come together to assemble. That's in that First Amendment, that we can not only believe it, we can say it, and we can bring people together to assemble to exercise it. We have that right, church. And then we also have, after we have assembled, the right to redress our grievances. We can assemble and say, Mr. President, you are a liar. A lie by any other name is the same. It's a lie. And we can do artful ways of saying that. We can call it a falsehood. We can say, oh, I respect the honor of the presidency, and so I'll refrain from the L word. Can you believe that? It's a lie. It's a lie. It's not true. And he may be crazy, and he may not know that he's crazy, but he's a liar, and that has to be told to him. So I'm saying on this day, in this free pulpit, amen, I'm saying that my Bible says, lying lips do not suit you rulers. Lying lips are worse than eloquent lips from a fool. Lying lips are horrible. Thou shalt not lie, says one of the commandments. I'm here on this day to tell you that I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of free speech. I believe in working toward truth, seeking the truth in love. I believe in all of that. But most of all, I believe that it ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people don't stop. Amen. Amen. Amen.